Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're talking about a really important update for anyone who's using or even thinking about using AWS S3 Object Lambda. If you're building on AWS, you're going to want to stick around for this one. All right, first things first, circle this date on your calendar. November 7th, 2025. That's the big day AWS has set for a major change in how S3 Object Lambda is going to be available. So let's make sure you're ready. So what is S3 Object Lambda anyway? Let's do a quick refresher. Basically, it's this super handy service that lets you run your own code on S3 GET requests. This means you can change up your data as it's being retrieved all on the fly, which is awesome because you don't have to mess with the original object at all. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the update itself. Then we'll get into how it's actually going to impact your projects. After that, we'll walk through the three main alternatives that AWS is suggesting. And finally, we'll tie it all together and help you pick the right path forward. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the update itself. We'll look at what's changing and, more importantly, why you should care. So here's the deal broken down for you. After that November 2025 date, if you're not already using the service, you can't start. For all of you existing customers, don't worry, AWS will keep supporting it with security and availability patches. But, and this is a big one, don't expect any new features. It's basically going into maintenance mode. Okay, so now that we know what's happening, what does it actually mean for you and your work? Let's move on to our next section and get into the nitty-gritty of how this update affects your projects. Yeah, this slide really lays it out perfectly. It's like two different paths depending on who you are. If you're already using it, well, things are kind of business as usual, just with that heads up about no new features. But if you're new to the game or you are planning to use it in a new project, yeah, S3 Object Lambda is off the table. You've got to look at the alternatives. Okay, but here's the good news, and it's a big relief. This whole thing, it's just about the compute part that processes your data. Your actual data, sitting safe and sound in S3, is totally untouched. That means no painful data migrations. Phew, that's a huge weight off, right? All right, so we get the problem. Now let's talk solutions. In Section 3, we're diving into the three main alternatives. This is where we really get into your options and explore the best ways forward. And AWS has given us count 'em, three clear, officially recommended alternatives to S3 Object Lambda. We're going to break down each one so you can figure out what works best for you. This is kind of like your cheat sheet, a quick glance at what's on the menu. You've got dynamic image transformation for, you guessed it, images. Then there's direct Lambda invocation for more general data stuff. And finally, client-side processing for when it makes sense to handle logic in your app. Okay, let's tackle the first one. If you're doing a lot of image manipulation, resizing, that kind of thing, then listen up, because this option was basically tailor-made for you. So this option leans on Amazon CloudFront, their global CDN, to handle image processing on the fly. It's absolutely perfect for changing formats, resizing, or slapping on filters. And here's a pro tip, a really important one, straight from AWS. When you deploy this, make sure that Enable S3 Object Lambda parameter is set to No. Okay, moving on to alternative number 2. Now, for a lot of you, this is probably going to be the most direct swap, especially if you're not just dealing with images. The idea here is simple. You keep using Lambda for your heavy lifting, you just change how you kick it off. It's perfect for jobs like redacting sensitive information from a file before sending it to a user. And the best part? It means you probably won't have to change your core logic much at all. You just trigger it differently, maybe with CloudFront, API Gateway, or a Lambda function URL. And this lays out the game plan perfectly. It's a simple 3-step dance. First, you pick your invocation method, how you're going to start the Lambda. Second, you get that function all set up. And third, you just update your application to call this new endpoint instead of the old one. Simple as that. And that brings us to door number 3, our last alternative. Now this one asks you to think a little differently about where your code lives. So with this one, you're taking that processing logic and pulling it right into your client-side app. When would you do this? Well, it's a great fit if your application is already doing some work on the data anyway. For instance, if you are using Object Lambda just to redirect to a different S3 object, you could easily just build that logic directly into your app. Okay, we've gone through the what's changing and the what you can do about it. Now let's pull it all together in our final section and focus on making the right choice for your specific situation. So, After all that, we land on the big question, right? Which one of these is your path? Which one makes the most sense for what you're trying to build? Think of this as your decision-making flowchart. It makes it super simple. If you're doing image stuff, your best bet is the dynamic image transformation solution. If you're redacting data or changing formats on the fly, look no further than direct Lambda invocation. And if your app is already doing some data crunching, well, maybe it makes sense to just move the logic there. And hey, remember, you don't have to go it alone on this. AWS makes it really clear that their support teams are there to help you out if you get stuck or just have questions about these alternatives. And that kind of brings us to the bigger picture here. This S3 Object Lambda update, it's a perfect reminder that the cloud is always moving, always changing, and it really makes you think, doesn't it? As these services evolve, how do we build our applications to be resilient? How do we build for change so we're not just great for today, but ready for whatever comes next? It's definitely something to chew on for your next project.